We're finally here. Part 2 is right now, episode 26, Recreation. Part 2 of the final day, which is the part 2 of the season finale. Now there is one more episode after this, which I didn't watch yet, but for this one, oh boy. Let's just say this is a very good part 2. I'm going to say that. And considering this whole episode, I could just summarize this right now. If this was truly like the end of the series, I would have been fine. Unfortunately, we have some last few minute stuff at the end of the episode that actually shows that there is a cliffhanger for next season, and we'll have to figure out what it is. But this one is a pretty good episode. I'll talk about it right now, so here we go. So here we are with the news again, basically a world report about all these Miraculi. This is what these dummies are called, Miraculi. And they're all over the world basically. As you can see here, this is actually Lila actually looking at her phone just to give us a clue on what's going on throughout the world as of now. And what she's doing here, Lila, besides watching the news, she is still tinkering with the laptop. But she seems to be finished, and she seems to be going her way outside now. She puts on a new pair of contact lenses and a pair of glasses so nobody can actually recognize her, rides her bike, and she's off to basically the aggress household. Now, how do I know this? Well, it won't be exactly explained, but we'll see her basically at the aggress household later in the episode. We have Monarch and Ladybug, or Bug Noir. That is the name actually, Bug Noir now. Or, yeah, it's Bug Noir. I have to keep remembering that. So, this whole fight, I'll say this, they are going back and forth, and then later basically reveal that they know each other's identities. Hawkmoth, or at least Monarch at this point, would actually has some suspicions that Marinette was Ladybug, but he just doesn't believe it. It was just kind of in the back of his mind. But then after seeing it in his own eyes, that she transformed into Bug Noir, he recognizes that this makes sense. Marinette's the only one of the only people who basically resists my control, right? That's all. Also, later in the fight, Ladybug discusses, or at least says that she knows that his secret identity is Gabriel. He says, like, how did you know? And she said, I just got lucky. And we all know how Marinette actually recognizes his secret identity. She was there in the room. But yeah, the fight itself, and to be honest, this whole half of the episode is all fight oriented, which is, I think, a first for the whole series, which is surprising considering there's a lot of action scenes. This one is pretty much the longest one. Ladybug, I would say for short term here, because it is Bug Noir, but I'll say Ladybug for simplicity's sake, but I will switch back and forth sometimes. Ladybug here can spam Lucky Charm. The thing is that when she says Lucky Charm again, the object that was originally from the first one will basically reformat itself into a new Lucky Charm. So at this point, let's say like in the episode, she basically used a Lucky Charm. It was a piano, like a grand piano that just fell on top of Gabriel, which is funny on its own right. And then she kind of pushed him back. And then she says Lucky Charm again, and then the broken piano pieces turn into the next item. Now she does this multiple times, and of course she can also spam Cataclysm, so the one-time rule does not apply to Lucky Charm. However, she does need a Lucky Charm in order to use the Miraculous Ladybugs, basically, right? So yeah, that's kind of how it works with these multiple uses, and it's very interesting to say the least, and I do believe that this is a great use of power. Of course, it's not an instant win. Most of these weapons that she does use is mostly for combat instead of actually problem solving. So if she really wanted to, Ladybug could actually make a Lucky Charm, or at least have the Lucky Charm to do a one-time ordeal to solve the problem instantly, or she can actually use Lucky Charm to give herself an object that is useful in this situation. And for most of these items that she used are and yes, all of them are non-lethal weapons that can actually be used to hit somebody, like a bread pan. or a stick, or hell, it's even a pole, who knows, right? It's basically anything that she thinks of. And yeah, that's basically kind of how this fight's going out, and Monarch this whole time is really struggling here to actually get a good hit in, but of course Gabriel, or at least Monarch, of course, is skilled enough to actually dodge Ladybug here, so it's basically kind of even ground. We get back to the kids at the boat, basically trying to suppress Ivan here, and then they're all tackling him. Rose did the final tackle, and they did remove the ring and destroy the ring, so that you have to destroy the ring in order to turn everybody back to normal. Ivan turns back to normal, but he still has these nightmares of Maylan actually leaving him, but of course they comfort him in the end. We go back to China from the Shanghai special, right? And Uncle Wu, I think, I forget, I know this uncle, he's like maybe the best chef with celestial soup, you know? But yeah, he's here, and he actually does a pretty good job fighting, using kitchen utensils to basically fight off these guys. And yes, he can really handle himself, to be honest. Oh, jeez. But what's surprising here is that he does have a special guest. We have Faye here. Faye is basically in the restroom, basically hiding all this. We don't know the reason why, but she is working with the uncle, which she also calls him her uncle as well. Now I think the reason why is uncle is that they're not related by blood. It's this type of Asian culture thing, basically, myself included, that sometimes other people that are basically kind of close to you in a way, like, you know, extended families, but like not really. It's an Asian type of culture. Like, you can call somebody of your uncle because the person you know, at least your father knows, is basically their friend, and then, you know, if you're nice enough, or they know them long enough, they can call themselves uncle, basically. And it's mostly either uncle or aunt, even if they're no way related to your own family in terms of relationship, basically. It's just a strong relationship in that regard. It's a weird thing as an Asian person myself. Even it's hard for me to explain it, but it's basically more of a cultural thing and not an actual family thing, just to get you out there. Now, the thing is, Faye here actually has a nightmare, of course. Her nightmare is basically not being the chosen one to actually use the prodigious. If you don't remember, the prodigious is basically like the miraculous, except very much stronger. There's just basically astral. There's just basically astral animals, which are kind of like kwamis, but they're not really kwamis. And of course, the power of the prodigious is that she can choose any of the animals that are available to her, and she can transform into that animal with the animal-like abilities. In this case, later, after convincing herself that she is basically the wielder or the chosen one of the prodigious, she turns into a monkey. After that, she basically saves Uncle Chef, I'll call him Uncle Chef for the meanwhile, and realizes that these rings are basically affecting these people in a way. She doesn't know what's happening, but that's what she gets so far. Then we go on to some sort of beach, and then we see basically the old monk master here. And guess what? The monk this whole time, even though he was searching for recruits, he's actually training 3 people. That will be basically Luca, and of course the rest of his family, which is Catherine, I believe, and Jagged Stone. They all know Kung Fu, or at least martial arts. So that's actually pretty surprising, and actually some good stuff too. At least now they have combat. Whew. Man, this is actually getting interesting. So this is what they were doing this whole time. After doing this, Alex basically makes a time portal for them to actually do something here. Now, it is future Alex, I should say. This is actually, yeah, this is basically future Alex that is actually helping them right now. And future Alex is bringing them to basically the location where this whole ordeal is happening. Everybody, even including the crocodile, basically went to the portal into Paris. Now, future Alex cannot affect the present time since she's from the future. However, her younger version can. Unfortunately, I will say this right now, her younger version, at least of Alex that we know, doesn't is not involved in this episode whatsoever. It's just future Alex. Then we go to America, specifically New York, where all the superheroes basically try to fend off and protect the city. And I do mean all superheroes. Well, I'm betting you that most of the heroes in New York are basically like spread out at this point. But we do have our main heroes, and unfortunately this Mr. Magic Hot Dog Man is not a recurring character, sadly. Then Miss Galaxia, I think that's her name. It's been a while since most of these superheroes aren't really mentioned that much, but I would call her Galaxia because I think that's what her name is. So basically, she actually came in the nick of time with her super speed and basically takes care of the rest of the people. Unfortunately, just like with everybody else in the world, she also has these nightmares. That her nightmare specifically is basically, even though she has all this power in the palm of her hands, she can't really solve every world problem. Very Superman-like, can I say the least. Oh, you guys remember the Night Owl? Yeah. So this is what she looks like in full costume from the New York special. So that's actually pretty nice. Also, if you guys didn't know, these two are basically a couple. I'm betting you that maybe somebody actually wishes that Superman and Batman were a thing. But you know, that's just me. Then basically, I don't have the full screenshot here because these two characters aren't really that much together. But we have the miraculous holder of New York, which is the power of the eagle. I really forgot her name because her name wasn't really that much mentioned in the New York special and never again later. But it never got referenced until now, which is kind of weird. Also, the robot girl, I forgot her name too. The one with the 3 eyes? Yeah, she actually uses her lasers to destroy these rings with precision aiming. That's what you get for a robot, you know. And later, they all recognize that something is actually happening in Paris because robot. We go back to the Agress household here with Ladybug actually basically kind of putting Hawkmoth in the back foot, Monarch I should say. Now the thing is, this whole battle, the intensity of the battle has actually been increased where they're actually making cracks on the ground and actually pushing each other through walls and actually much more harder impact. Or at least to say the least, Ladybug's actually doing all the heavy hitting while Monarch is either holding back or he's just pretty old and basically injured at this point. So he's not at full power, but Ladybug really just smacks the shit out of him. Man's just curb stomping him, honestly. Now they're having just a bit of a talk on to why he's actually doing this, and basically Marinette here as Marinette, and of course talking to Gabriel, basically talking about what Adrian would want, yada yada yada. You know the thing. Just the same thing as the episode where, you know, Cat Noir and Gabriel were talking. Now, this whole ordeal, right, is basically a back and forth. It's just basically a stall game at this point. The reason why is even though Ladybug has him where she wants him. Oh boy, it's a lot of pronouns I have to say here. These are like simple ones. I always get them mixed up because of how similarly sound if I talk fast. But either way, with that aside, Hawkmoth every single time uses shelter to protect the rings, but every single time Ladybug uses Cataclysm to destroy shelter, but he just reactivates it again. So it's basically stalemate, and they keep fighting each other while basically in handcuffs. Ladybug hit him so hard that, well, we have an interesting fact. Gabriel Gress, at this point, his insides, his blood is not blood anymore. His blood is actually charcoal dust. In the inside, he is now coughing up charcoal or ashes. Now, how is he still alive? My guess is as good as yours. Maybe it's magic. But yeah, he's just coughing up this much right now. Even when he talks, his whole mouth is basically black with, you can see the residue on his mouth, which is some attention to detail. But of course later it's kind of gone later in the episode, but to be honest, he might have just wiped it off when he recovered himself after this fall. Speaking of which, We'll get to that later. But then she used this basically bread pan and just smacks the shit out of Gabriel, letting him hit a wall. Nino and Aya are here, basically trying to rescue the owl. But yeah, he was basically under the control. So they kind of just surprisingly sneak attack on him. Makes sense, I guess, because even as a Miraculi, he still acts as an heroic person. So just kind of standing there, bravely posing, you know. But yeah, it kind of solved. And of course, his nightmare was that you know, Hawkmoth became mayor, and then the resistance is disbanded. But of course, those nightmares aren't true, thanks to basically the resistance still being here. So they're off to basically save the city again with the rest of the people. Now, it took me a while to know who this Miraculi is, but this Miraculi is actually Nero. God, what's her name? Forgot. But they'd be a Nazi. I know that for sure. Nora. That's right, Nora. It's been a while. It's been a while since I saw my favorite character. But yeah, Nora actually was basically calling out Cat Noir. And you know what she did? Just to basically try to get him out, she uses the power of the tiger and splits the skyscraper in half. It's really fitting, honestly. The powerhouse gets the powerful Miraculous that's very destructive in terms of actually punching stuff. But don't worry, because of Doorman, the heroes, well, 4 of the heroes of New York actually came into Paris, which is, you know, the Eagle Miraculous Holder, Doorman, of course, Night Owl, and of course Galaxia. Which Galaxia actually takes both sides of the skyscraper and just actually pulls them together. It is pretty impressive. It was actually really impressive that she couldn't do that. But again, I have to remember that is like a Superman feat. Honestly, she is like Superman, but it's still pretty cool, honestly. And of course, the robot, and then of course the robot girl. I keep forgetting her name. I wish I didn't, but considering how like Miraculous never actually referenced these from the New York special, only referencing once for the Shanghai special, I just don't know. And of course, I forgot that the robot girl is actually her daughter in a way, so she built her, you know. But she uses her laser eyes to basically, well, the robot girl has laser eyes. Galaxia doesn't. So the robot girl basically kind of melds the whole building together pretty fast, honestly. That's like very good fast fixing without needing the Miraculouses, but you know, it's very limited because you know, it's just broken half, you know. We come back to here, and the fight's still pretty much the same. With this fight going nowhere in particular, Ladybug pulls a Cat Noir move. She cataclysms the floor. Unfortunately, she also falls down into the depths of the basement. All the resistance came from the subway because they were getting chased. Unfortunately, all these other Miraculi actually found them, and they're all surrounded. And I do mean all surrounded. But don't worry, the alligator is here, and along with the rest of Luca's family, you know. But mostly the alligator. The man was MVP to saving all those kids. Luca and Julika actually have their little reunion here. And now they're twins. I feel like it's been explained that they're twins before. Just don't remember. But I guess it kind of makes sense in a way. But also not. Because Luca's homeschooled and she's not, but she was held back 1 year. It's still pretty weird if you think about it. But yeah, the twins. I don't know, again, I don't know if it's been said. But it's nice to get reminded, I guess. But of course, this reunion have to wait because they're under attack. Thanks to the monk actually telling them that it's no time for reunions now. Unfortunately, Dragonstone is the first one to go. He was being pretty awesome for the 5 seconds of screen time we got with him. But don't worry, the United Heroes are here, from New York. Technically, the United Heroes is basically the hero name of the superhero group. Unfortunately, there's not many of them. You could say these are like the Avengers or stuff like that if we're gonna be very simple. But with these guys, you're not heroes. Well, I'll call them the superheroes or the New Yorkers. I think New Yorkers actually sounds a bit mean, honestly. I don't know. I don't know if saying New Yorkers are actually still okay, but like, you know, we'll just call them superheroes at this point, right? Basically saving everybody. Of course, the monk acts Night Owl here. Is like, how did you resist the nightmares? And we have the very cheesy Batman line from Night Owl, honestly. She says that she is the nightmare. That is very cheesy Batman line, honestly. But it works for a kid's show, you know? And I guess that makes sense. If she is the nightmare, then there's really no other nightmare that could actually harm her because she is the nightmare. That actually makes sense in a very cheesy bullshit way, but like, I think it's just pretty funny. It's a one-liner. Nobody took it seriously, and it didn't overstay its welcome. It's like the only cheesy one-liner, so I'll give it a pass. And hey, it's a Batman reference. I like that. But then the sky's gone dark, and lightning shoots from the heavens and strikes down well, not all of them, most of the Miraculi, and it's actually Faye. For the second time, I think, in the series. Yeah, this is the second time. But this is actually the first time, I believe, that we actually saw the dragon form in full view. And I say, it's really good. It is basically a traditional Chinese dragon, of course, because it has 4 legs. You could say it's a little reference to Shenron, considering the dragon shape, but I think it's just a typical Chinese dragon. Like Shenron is a reference of a Chinese dragon, basically. But yeah, you get your own conclusions, honestly. Still pretty cool, not gonna lie. Shooting lightning from her mouth, she actually strikes everybody in the multiple groups, which is actually pretty useful. We finally get to the basement with 2 of these people, these superpowered humans, basically having their last standoff in the basement. Ladybug here is trying to find her yo-yo and, of course, her pole, while Monarch is just waddling towards her, still getting his footing. Yada yada yada, you already know, he's gonna spew out his plans, right? And of course, he did show Marinette his dead wife, and he actually now tells Marinette, Ladybug, you know, interchangeable, same difference. Just tells her his whole goal. Marinette is having a hard time actually trying to get all this in, but with the little semblance of what she can get, and she's kind of right about this, is that, okay, but that's kind of selfish, and you already know about the thing of the wish, right? You still have to sacrifice one thing, right? And then Monarch's like basically using this as just a little fun time for him, right? It's like, he just amuses the idea, like, what about I sacrifice your life, Marinette, you know? And stuff like that. And this is kind of where, like, Monarch actually kind of becomes almost like Awful One in terms of actually playing along with an idea. We're not counting the manga, though, of My Hero, but it kind of almost becomes like that, but not really. It's just more coincidence because of how the writing is. We go back up, and unfortunately, all of our heroes are actually having a much more harder time. All the Miraculi actually realize that the dragon is basically the biggest threat, and since because it's a big body and it's another magical creature that is stronger than the Miraculous, all the Miraculi group up on the dragon using basically Voyage and using Venom to basically paralyze it. I believe that's through this whole time, and counting the dots that were on the body to symbolize Venom. About, I think, 30 people, it takes 30 Venoms to actually take down the dragon, which shows how strong the Prodigious is, but unfortunately she is now permanently paralyzed. Everybody else on the ground realized that their biggest main asset to this fight is gone. And then Arya looks back and no answer from Marinette. So suffice to say, everybody on above ground is fucked. Ladybug does try to talk Monarch out of this, but it seems like that she has no choice. So what she does is that she uses her lucky charm and it's basically glue. So she glues the boomerang, basically uses the boomerang to try to break the coffin, although that was just a ploy because she does know that Monarch is going to try to save Emily here, his wife, from the glass breaking. With Monarch actually getting a hold of the boomerang, Marinette basically pulls it back with all one half of the Miraculous back with her, and since she cataclysms this giant elevator shaft, it was going to fall straight on Emily. And the thing is, if Monarch didn't save that pillar to smashing on Emily, Marinette really took the biggest risk on actually killing a person that's already dead. I don't know if it's wrong to kill a person who's already dead, but you tell me. I really don't know. But either way, she does know, I guess, a bit too much in his ambitions, so she's using it to her own advantage. Now after this, she basically aims towards his chest, and it's not for the kill. It was to get his Miraculous off of him. And for some reason he had enough strength to push it to the side, but he was trying to get his own Miraculous. Unfortunately, he was not fast enough and the Miraculous fell into the water. I also forgot to mention, and this is earlier in the episode, this is basically Lila next to the Aggress home. And since her computer now is hacked into the Gabriel system, she basically opened the door. She went inside, but she saw a big crater. And now she's waiting for her moment to strike, which we'll never see in this episode. But we can all tell where she was. She somehow gone into the basement without nobody noticing and actually found the Miraculous. With basically right now, Gabriel, knowing that he is defeated, and at this point, Ladybug kind of has all the power here, and they started to talk. Ladybug knows, he says that this is all over, but it doesn't need to be. What the thing is they could do is actually have a real human solution. Maybe possibly have the whole family together. And basically finally showed Gabriel the phone that Natalie gave her. Goddamn. Natalie gave Marinette the phone, or Ladybug the phone, and then she gives the phone to Gabriel. That's kind of what my head's supposed to be saying, but apparently I kind of jumbled that mess. Either way, this is actually how it happens, and of course later Gabriel talks about the whole life situation, and honestly, you could say that this was actually straight from the movie, the realization, but Gabriel saying this to basically Ladybug instead of Gabriel saying this to Adrian/Cat Noir. It is the same emotional beats, and the acting on this one is basically very good. The acting here is very good. It is a very emotional scene, and it works. And oh boy, you can tell that he was basically about to tear up, honestly. And hearing the harsh truth from Ladybug that it can't work. They could try to do this another way. Gabriel basically has this idea. Why not just let Ladybug do the wish? So she can actually choose what to do, because she does get all these miraculous decisions, right? Everything works out in the end. Ladybug unfortunately tells him another hard truth, that the wish cannot be used for selfish means. It only can be used for the greater good if it is so choose, because for anything with the greater good, something that couldn't be replaced is basically the best wish. Unfortunately, replacing a life, like bringing back a life and destroying another, is something like replacing some sort of life. I don't know what kind of metaphor or allegory I'm trying to think here, but regardless, oh boy. We have Gabriel basically telling his story again that we kind of knew, but it's more sadder and more emotional since it came from him, and he was basically being genuinely honest. Ladybug transforms into Marinette, and Marinette basically lends a hand. That since now at this point Gabriel realized that there is another way. There is another way to bring back his wife, and that is basically to trust in Marinette. And well, yeah, pretty much it. This is basically kind of a redemption arc for him in a technical way, that he is going to work with the heroes and stop being a villain, basically letting go of the wish and, well, trying to do this the normal human way. It might not be perfect, but it will be something to at least make Adrian happy, since their goals actually align. Gabriel agrees to this. Of course Gabriel has other plans. You think it will be going that easily, right? And so yeah, apparently you can still use the power of the Miraculous if you have the rings. Who would have funked? And I guess he was right. Earlier in the episode he said he mastered the power and improved on the magic that the Miraculous has. And this is one way how he improved it. He doesn't need to be transformed in order to actually use it. Should have known. Gabriel, finally taking the earrings and the ring, basically calls forth Tiki and Plague, and he says, reveal yourself, meaning that Plague and Tiki have a transformation, or at least their true embodiments, and we do see them. This is the best screenshot I can get with both of these together. Plague, the god of destruction, and Tiki, the god of creation, or at least you can say the gods of creation and destruction, basically. And of course, when as saying the thing again, to say both of their names, and of course, reveal yourself again, we get Creati. Creati is the god of existence, basically the god of everything. And the power is just to basically create and instantly make a wish. However, the way how Creati talks, or I think the name is Gemini, I don't really remember, but I'll call Creati because that's like the first thing I remembered from this whole thing. That Creati is basically like Shenron. You just need to make a wish, but then you have to make a sacrifice. There's really no two ways about it. And we do know the limits of the wish making, that there is a wish that does not to be needed for a sacrifice, like does not need a sacrifice, but of course that depends on the scale, and unfortunately we all know that Gabriel's not going to wish for something. Gabriel wishes for basically the same thing you predicted, basically bring his wife back. But there is the biggest twist here. Marinette tries to tell Gabriel to stop this, but Gabriel keeps moving on with this and says his wish. But before he continues, he gives his final words to Marinette. Marinette says that, well, Marinette tries to convince him a bit more, but Gabriel's last words were this: if you ever make it out, and remember this, please tell Adrian to remember me with the good times I had with him. That's kind of the general gist of it. So what he's saying is that make sure Adrian knows the good memories of me, which is basically the good memories when Adrian was a little child and not currently right now from the whole 1 or 2 years of the series. Basically all the stuff that happened before he went insane. And with that, I can already tell, but if you guys didn't know, we'll continue on because we'll suspend that just a bit more further. He takes off his 2 rings, one from him and one from Emily, and he begins to say the wish. Gabriel says, bring her back, basically. So Creati says, what's your wish? To bring her back. And what is yours? And then what is your risk? And he says his soul. He is sacrificing himself to bring Emily back. So there's 2 conclusions here. One is that this is his plan the entire time. actually sacrificing his own life to resurrect his wife. But there's the second conclusion. Ladybug convinced him that there is another way. But unfortunately, after realizing that his time is indeed finite and only like a few hours right now, he actually made up his mind, still doing the wish, but he's willing to sacrifice his own life in order to have Adrian the best life that he can get. It is a pretty emotional scene here, and even though these are two conclusions, I like to believe that Ladybug actually convinced him and this was not his whole plan the entire time, because if this was his whole plan the entire time, imagine how short the series would be. The villain won at the end of the day, but it was for a just cause. But we will never have the emotional connection that we had right now. It would just be kind of a stupid ending, but I'm glad that we didn't get that stupid ending. So in the end, both Gabriel and Emily floated into the air, embracing each other. And then a huge explosion appeared. Like a huge explosion. A little bigger. A little bigger. Yes. It is in a universal scale. This whole thing shook the whole universe. Now here's the thing. Now there might be two of these weird things here. I think there's like two universes merging, which could actually indicate a crossover at some point. But there is another universe. I just take my word for it because I don't have the screenshot. You just need to watch the episode. But there is another universe behind this Big Bang here, which means there is multiple universes right now. Then, fading back to reality, we have Adrian basically sleeping here. We see that everything seems to be peaceful, and Marinette, Adrian, and all their friends basically having a pool party at his place, with a lot of nature basically growing around them. We have of course, the drag queen himself, and of course, Miss Bougier being the new mayor, with the little child called Harmony. Now, with the new mayor, of course, her thing is to basically, first, ecosystem, then education. And, Jesus Christ, I am a little jealous about their school system. No classes, but basically it's free learning with some optional classes if you want to pursue those things, right? It's kind of that school system. I wish we had that. I wish the world had something like that. Free education, but you can do it on your own time, if you so choose. I wish that was a thing. But it's most likely like a high school, middle school thing. Of course, we still need the basic education from elementary, you know. Of course, they have a statue, basically. And since with all the Alliance around the world, they actually gathered all the Alliance rings and recycled them to make a statue. And the statue is none other than Gabriel Gress. Gabriel Gress has made himself a legacy in this one. While basically saving his wife, he actually basically reversed all the damage that he has done throughout this whole time. And what he also did was basically put him in a more positive light. And actually, his final wish was to basically help the environment and make everybody's wish come true. And technically, he did all of that in the end. And now, we have one thing to say here, and I will say this. That you remember Tsurugi? Tsurugi right now will be basically the new head of the Aggress industry at this point. Oh yeah, did I mention that we finally get to see almost all of the kids in their swimsuits? It's pretty nice. Also, yeah, Felix is here. Yeah, so Felix is now a permanent member here. And it seems like he's not an anti-hero anymore. So there goes that plot point for him to be an actual hero. But you know, it is what it is. We later get this lovely scene with Marinette and Adrian. And by God, it is like very, very not emotional per se. It's very cute. And of course, we have like maybe one of the best scenes in the entire series. We just get these still images, and there's like 2 in total, and they kind of linger on just a bit. But Jesus Christ, these are like the best screenshots I have ever seen. Screenshots, I don't know. Say like wallpaper material? I say wallpaper material. This is like true wallpaper material. This is very good. The artist on this was... You can tell where the budget went, honestly. It was just for this scene alone. And also another scene, which is an overhead shot. We still have a bit of ongoing news. And we see here that Ladybug, or we should say Marinette, is actually remaking all the Miraculous. She is that crafty. Will they be new, or will they fake? Who can say? Fake? Why did I say fake? Okay, so like what I'm gonna say, okay, I'll rephrase that. Is, will these Miraculous be the same like the rings? Or will these Miraculous be like the normal Miraculous? Or will these Miraculous actually be different items? Who can say at this point? But other than that, Marinette's plan is this. With the permission of the monk, and of course, Aya as a supervisor, everybody, and I do mean everybody, who had the Miraculous, everybody who had the Miraculous beforehand will now have Miraculous permanently, which means that as long as the show stays consistent, everybody who had the Miraculous beforehand now has the Miraculous, and they will forever keep that Miraculous, and now they will be in charge of their own Miraculous, because Ladybug basically trusts all of them. And considering that we have like a few moments with all these characters, they are pretty good on actually not just keeping a secret, but also really good on being very responsible. Very, very responsible. Oh yeah, Felix here. Don't know when he joined the team, but you know, he's just there. Also, yeah, it seems like Alex, as you can see here, is at the end. It doesn't look like she has that hat anymore, which is a bit sad. But then again, it could have been just the fusion because of her bunny and dog thing. But who knows? Either way, it's nice to see the whole gang here, and we basically ended off with a nice send-off. Also, I should say this, it does look like Zoe is going to be here forever. It looks like her moving out back to New York is not going to be a thing, possibly. Also, yeah, Sabrina's here too. Unfortunately, she's being covered by Captain Noir's leg. Pretty sad, but Sabrina's here. So it looks like she is now going to be a superhero and not actually follow Chloe anymore. And here we go, another screenshot of all the heroes of Paris. Now, do you really think that we forgot about Lila? No, Lila has found the Miraculous, and she's basically wearing it right now. Also, she is also planning to attend the new and improved school. She contacted the principal in incognito mode. And basically the principal, with not even recognizing the voice, surprisingly, basically accepts that she can join the school. And with the Miraculous in tow, she's about to bring some chaos. Until a giant portal was behind her and basically abducted her to who knows where. That'll be for next season, possibly. And that is the end of the episode. My fellow viewers, whoever's now still watching, it's been a rough, treacherous journey. Season 5, as a whole, is one of the best seasons of Miraculous. And you can really tell that they've gone all out on this. Sure, the schedule of basically being very super consistent of the timeline is good only halfway, and then they kind of fumbled about the schedule, and then like the timeline is just out of whack, kind of like that. No, I will say this, the timeline for Miraculous for season 5 is super consistent. There is no small gaps in between episodes, nothing like that. The only problem, I will say this, is pretty simple. It was very confusing to put in the consistent timeline because of how the company is releasing all these episodes. But I digress. That was a little nudge and a little nitpick. Okay, a very big nitpick, but still. I will say this, season 5 is a very good season. One of the best seasons so far. I'll do a quick review on basically the whole season soon. Maybe part in the future while I watch all the episodes in my own time and basically enjoying them. And I'll say this, part 2, 9 out of 10. The reason why it's 9 out of 10 is because of this biggest gripe I have. New York special, the Miraculous New York special. After all this time, we get them back, but only referenced in this episode only. Sure, it was been referenced before in the series, but that was before the Miraculous Heroes, so I'm not counting that. Modernly, be after the Miraculous special for New York, there was no mention of them whatsoever until this episode. A little peeve of me. I'm just a little bit of that, but it could be a nitpick. I don't know. But I kind of wish we had more of them to just build them up a tiny bit, because we know that the Shanghai episode was, the Shanghai special was canon to the show because we saw it and was referenced once only. Jesus, I just don't know. Also, here's the thing. I do wish we saw the monk on his journey, at least for one episode. But, you know, he was held back. He appeared in the beginning of the season, and then he appeared at the end of the season. A lot of people doubted, but a lot of people also expected it. So I don't know which side they're on. Also, Luca actually doing something, learning martial arts with his whole second family. That's nice, actually. Really nice. That's some good character shit right there. And yeah, I really like it. Also, seeing the superheroes again, really like that too. Because the thing is, the superhero aspect was actually the best thing, because this is the superheroes are taking the Marvel approach, while for Ladybug and the others, they're taking the classic superhero approach. I think you can guess what I mean by that. But yeah, that's it. 9 out of 10. It would have been a perfect episode. There were just some minor gripes about it, like the New York being like just shoved in for whatever reason and stuff like that. Now, before I end the video, I'll say this right now. There's basically the huge talk about the biggest negative in the room, and that is Cat Noir not being in the episode at all. And yes, he was at the end, but a lot of people was like, where was he? Why couldn't he be there? Could you guess why he wasn't there? Adrian was never mentioned here before. Well, he was mentioned in here before, but he wasn't in person. Reason why? He is stuck in London. Nobody can help him. Now, there is the loophole and a plot hole that Alex could have helped. She would know. Luca would know. But I'll tell you this. Would Ladybug even know that he came back? No, not really. Could Alex save him earlier? Yes. But it's because of the timeline. There's a lot of in-universe excuses why Cat Noir shouldn't be allowed to fight in this fight. And while I wish he was in this fight, it will make it some lot of karmic justice or something like that. There is a reason why. The movie already did it. I'm actually serious. The movie actually did it first, so they have to have a secondary way of actually doing this. And I think this is actually a pretty good way on doing this, basically. Gabriel doesn't even need to know that his child is a superhero. He doesn't need to, because it doesn't affect the story at all. But I'm guessing that's the reason why people really don't like this episode, or at least the season finale, and why people say Cat Noir doesn't really matter. It's because of this. Cat Noir doesn't really need to matter. He doesn't really. Adrian matters as a whole. Adrian's story arc as a whole. Adrian is Cat Noir, therefore Cat Noir does matter because he is related to Adrian. Cat Noir doesn't actually have any other story beats. Cat Noir, the character, or at least the idea, is very super similar to Adrian. Cat Noir doesn't have his own complications. Cat Noir's complications are Adrian's complications. For Marinette and Ladybug have two different complications. It seems like Captain Noir was more the perfect hero in a sort of way. Yes, he could be incompetent and maybe a bit cocky at times, but in a way he's already super responsible and he already knows the superhero duty. Ladybug? Not exactly. She is the main lead. She is basically the guardian. She has all these responsibilities and we're growing up with her, while Captain Noir is just kind of there. He already knows his duty. His superhero arc doesn't need to be there. It's just there. So, could that be also the reason why this is a 9 out of 10? Possibly, but not really. It was mostly just because of the New York special that never got mentioned until now, so yeah. I do wish they'd use more of the dragon because that was super cool. But I've been rambling on a lot already. Overall, I recommend watching all Season 5 just to watch this. It is just amazing. Now, we have one more episode, and this episode was a secret episode too. I have not seen this episode yet. Nobody seems to be talking about this yet. So I'll see you guys next week on Monday to review on that. Would it be good? Would it be bad? What would it be about? If it's about Season 6, I mean that could be the thing we'll be potentially going towards. But it's time to actually now adopt possibly a new writing style. Because in Season 6, Disney is going to be taking over the writing, the creative writing. Oh boy! Cannot wait to know what happens now, huh? Considering how Disney and some other places with the writer's strike again. We don't know what Disney's gonna be doing with Season 6. It's really, really up in the air at this point. Animation-wise, it will be the same. Story structure? It's all up to Disney now, so hopefully Disney doesn't screw this up, or at least maybe improve the show a bit. Other than that, I'll see you guys next week for the secret episode. Take care.